Jesus is dying to answer questions before the family of the universe. Is it true that sin results in death? The devil says that's a lie. God says it's true, but I won't ask you to prove the truthfulness of my word. I will come myself in due course of time, and I will die that death. Now, is it true that sin results in death? As you stand looking at the cross, yes, it does. Question number 2. How about the devil's cruel caricature of God, that God has said, love me or I'll kill you? Did God kill his son? Did he torture his son? Or did he give him up? Did Jesus know he was being given up? My God, why have you given me up? So the death that comes as a result of our sin is not torture and execution at the hands of our gracious God. It is the awesome consequence of being given up by one who will cry as we go. Why will you die? How can I give you up? How can I let you go? And of course, dipping into the Gospels yet to come. Why was it important for God to clear this up? As sovereign of the universe, why couldn't he go ahead and blot out the opposition and preserve law and order in his universe? Isn't it that he did not wish to produce the obedience that springs from fear? Because when you get that kind of submission, there's something you don't get with it. You don't get love, and you don't get trust, and you've destroyed freedom. And God would rather die than give up freedom. Does anything happen at the cross that makes you afraid of God? Well, it depends how you read it. Some people read the cross, that's what God's going to do to me in the end, and am I scared, and am I going to be good? Does the obedience that springs from fear produce good, trustworthy children? Was Jesus tortured to death? Who did beat him and scourge him and torture him? I mean, never mind the poor citizens, the soldiers who were commanded to do it. In fact, there was more softness in the heart of the centurion than some of the Sabbath keepers. Don't blame the Romans. They wanted to let him go. Who wanted Jesus tortured to death? But the most devout group of blueprinting, Sabbath-keeping, tithe-paying, health-reforming Adventists the world has ever known. But they didn't know God. They served him from fear. They'd accepted the devil's caricature that God has said, look, you either love me or I'll what? And Hosea answers that, doesn't it? Look, if you prefer to go your own way, what I want cannot be produced by fear or force. I want love and trust and freely given willingness to obey. If I can't have that, I'd rather die. And he did die to show how much it meant to him. And the danger is, you see, if we don't understand this and begin serving God from fear or other motivations, even as we obey the blueprint, we may become his enemies. And I believe that's the third thing that was shown when Jesus died on the cross. That those who obey God and yet do not know him, and they don't serve him as a friend, they become hard-hearted enemies even as they defend the seventh-day Sabbath. Because you do remember that after they nailed him to the cross, they hurried home to keep the seventh day holy. Now, how about us Adventists at the present time? How can we prove whether we're God's true people or not? It all depends on the picture we have of him and whether we really are his friends. Or else we'll hear him say, go away, I never knew you. We never were friends. And that doesn't seem fair because we've worked hard, haven't we? Look at all the tithe we've paid and all the happy Sabbaths we've given up. You know. And the Lord says, go away, we never were friends. So it's a very personal matter, and nobody can judge this. Nobody's going to be disfellowshipped for the most serious of all sins. We disfellowship people for lesser crimes. But for the kind of sin that will keep you out of heaven, we're not able to disfellowship people. Because who can read the heart, you see? And that's why when we vote in church council, do you raise your hand very slowly to discipline a fellow member? Because who knows what's going on inside? Remember the 51st Psalm? God desires truth in the inner man. And we can't read in there. So we just do the best we can to keep peace and order in the church and make sure that we don't give a bad name to God and his people. These emergency measures that we have to adopt from time to time to keep our family together. But when it comes to touching on the real things, the prophets do, don't they? But this is in a realm where only God can read. And it behooves us to be very sympathetic with each other, it seems to me.